we're going to dive in specifically to a practice that has absolutely transformed my life in every single area of my life. And while it might seem like the topic of today is centered all around fitness and looking better and feeling better, you find very quickly that when you feel better as a result of this method, it's going to improve every single area of your life, from your money to your emotions, probably your emotions first, actually, which will impact your relationships and your spirituality and everything. And that topic today is intermittent fasting. We're going to talk about how you can practice intermittent fasting, or IF for short, so that you can slim better, right? Probably not the best way to put it. So that you can burn more fat, so that you can have more energy. And our guest today is an expert in the field of intermittent fasting. And he's an expert because he's done research into this. He's implemented it in his own life. And his name is Mr. Cameron Clark. And for those who don't know Cameron is a 51-year-old father of 6 and a devoted husband. He's been a music teacher in public schools most of his adult life, and he actually performed in America's Got Talent, which is very cool, at least the audition round. He loves performing as the lead singer, keyboardist, and sax player, a lot of things, in a band he formed recently. Like many people in his age group and profession, he had put on a lot of extra weight due to the unhealthy routines that most people settle into. I've been there, brother. After years of study and trying every pill and app you can buy to slim down, he realized that for a stubborn metabolism like his, he needed to rely on intermittent fasting as the way to succeed in shedding the extra pounds. After some trial and error, he discovered some ways to prepare his body to do fasting. He lost 40 pounds in the first 12 weeks of 2021. I'm going to say that again. He lost 40 pounds in the first 3 months of this year without setting foot in the gym. That is insane. Now he is devoting a lot of time to helping other people in his age range to duplicate his own results, which I greatly respect. Cameron, it's a pleasure to have you here, my friend. Thank you so much.
Oh, thanks for having me. That introduction sounded pretty good. I was like, who is that guy? I sometimes forget that this happened to me. Like, had it not happened to me, I'd probably think, yeah, right. I wouldn't believe it.
Yeah, no, it's pretty extraordinary what you've been able to do in this past year, but not even the past year, but literally the first 3 months, losing 40 pounds. And I guess my question to you would be, I know a lot of people are listening and they're like, okay, well, I want to burn fat. I want to release weight. I want to feel better, right? It's a universal thing. We all want this. So what was the catalyst in your life at the beginning of this year for you to say, I need to make a change, and now is the time?
Well, I think it started just before January 1st. At Christmas, my wife actually bought me some clothes for my Christmas gift, and I tried the shirts on, and I was just disgusted because, I mean, my gut was just sticking out so bad, and she could sense it. She looked at me and was like, "Oh, sorry, honey, I should have got the extra big size." And she said, "Do you want to take it back?" I saved the receipts just in case. I was like, "Oh yeah, you would do that, wouldn't you?" and she said, we can just take it back. And I says, you know what? No, this is a sign. This is a sign from heaven. Let's not change the clothes to fit me. Let's change me to fit the clothes. And so I enjoyed the rest of the Christmas season and indulged a lot. And I was like, because I knew that in January I was going to finally do it. And I mean, by then I had probably done a lot of my research. I knew what I should do to slim down, but I knew that this was actually the time. Like I needed to. And those shirts weren't the only things that didn't fit. I have a closet full of stuff that didn't look good anymore. And I either needed to start buying all new clothes or change. And most people's budget, you'd probably smarter just to change instead of start over. So I had lots of reasons. And then, yeah, I guess probably the smartest thing I did was I knew a lot of other people in January would be thinking about, goals for the year. And so I started a contest just locally with some people that I knew. And it's kind of a hard topic to bring up because you don't want to hurt feelings, but I just said, let's do this contest. We'll each put in $50 and we'll compete for this pot, winner take all, and we all pushed each other. And most people that were at the top of the leaderboard were using, similar strategies to mine. So anyway, I don't want to go too far ahead of myself, but that's kind of how this all started. So keep me on track, because sometimes I don't know what you won't know about my story. So
yeah, no, will do. And I think you said a couple of things there I want to touch on. And first, I applaud and I celebrate you for the progress that you've made, because I know that releasing that weight and feeling better literally transforms every area of your life. And I mean, look what it's done for you. Now you're helping other people to do what you did. Let me ask you this before, and I don't want to go too much into this yet, because I do want to ask you, do you think you ever would have been doing what you're doing now had you not implemented these changes in your life?
Oh, no, because nothing else worked. Like, I dabbled in so many other things, and no, it just didn't work. And the thought of coaching other people, oh, there's no way I would have done that either, because I thought, well, how am I going to convince people? And to be honest, like, I do have a side business. My wife and I do essential oils together, and
Cool.
I was finding it hard to do that. Not because I believed in the products 100% and still do, but I had a hard time selling me. As you know, here I am trying to put myself in front of people as a health expert, and I'm like almost 300 pounds.
Yeah.
How are they going to listen to me? My A-list people that are already slim and trim, they're not going to pay attention to me.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that's another motivation I had, to be honest.
There's a couple things I want to touch on that you said earlier. The first thing is, you said, I knew that come January, I would make a change, right? You knew that you were going to begin. You started doing your research. Listen, we all hear about New Year's resolutions, right? It sounds like this was a New Year's resolution for you. I believe that change happens in a moment. I believe that we decide that something is going to happen. And based on that decision, it's already made up in our mind. We already know we're going to begin. Was there a moment that you remember making the decision, January 1st, this is going to change for me?
Yes. I think it was after, I think we had 16 people sign up for my contest. And after the first 3 days, I had been really meticulous, and I'd already lost like 10 pounds after the first 3 days. And I mean, that's obviously not sustainable. You don't just keep at that rate. But I had this experience where I knew that it was becoming real. And this moment was really important, because it was a Sunday morning, and I was getting ready to go to my church meeting. So I'm a church goer. And I looked in the mirror, and I something had already happened to my face. At 10 pounds, you know, in only 3 days, my face looked different, and I smiled, and I don't know, there's something special happened inside of me, and the smile felt real, and I was like giving approval back to that reflection that, yeah, it's okay to smile now. I hadn't really been happy with me, because as you can probably imagine, people who get too heavy, when we look at ourselves in the mirror, there's a lot of self-loathing that happens. And so that was kind of that magic moment that it's okay. This is good. And I'm proud of you for what you've done. Actually, I wrote a song about it. And I had been writing this song. I had this melody in my head for years, and I was dabbling on the piano that day. And I was trying to write this about my wife, because she's my inspiration for so many things. But I had this little voice that says, no, this song is for you. And after, 40 years of being a musician, writing a song that was just about me was like a way new concept. And it's like, I finally had permission to love what I saw in the mirror. And I knew that I was on the right track, because that was just like way too significant to be just small. Right? It was a huge change, turning point.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And I can definitely relate to that. I remember being 260 pounds. I'm 190 now. And I was 260, and I would look in the mirror, and I was disgusted with myself, right? I was like, well, how did I let myself get here? It was obvious. I would just eat whatever I wanted. I'd be sitting down for long periods of time, like you mentioned in your introduction there, the unhealthy habits that we allow ourselves to get into, right? And I would look at myself, but let me tell you, I've always struggled with my weight and my self-image, which I know you've talked about self-image. And even when I was thinner in high school, I would look at myself, and I was like rail thin, but I would say, wow, I'm still overweight. I still need to keep going. I still need to keep losing weight. And really only after I started to create a new image in my mind of who I wanted to be did that change, right? So my question to you now would be, okay, well, you put together this community. Now there's a group, an accountability group of a sort, which is super powerful.
Yeah.
How did you decide that intermittent fasting was going to be your main strategy? Or did you come across this after you already started the journey?
Well, I chose that strategy because it had worked before. I had, like I said, I researched and dabbled before, and I'd had some success, but for whatever reason, I don't know, there just wasn't this motivation. And I guess I wasn't as committed or ready to make a serious change. And so I would do that for a while. I'd lose 5 to 10 pounds and then plateau for whatever reason, and then just put it right back on plus more. And so I knew the strategy worked, but I I think I was trying it too, for lack of a better word, I was trying it too hard, and I was trying to be so strict that I was never allowing myself to enjoy anything, fun and delicious too. And so that's kind of how I made this little bit of a shift. I thought, okay, fine, I'm going to have times when I'm really, really dedicated, but I'm going to put something out in front of me. Like, I'm going to have one dessert per week, and I'm going to look forward to that. And that's why I named the program the way I did, Strategic Indulgence Method. I do indulge very carefully. And that makes this doable, because if a person's doing this major lifestyle change, you're thinking, I will never eat ice cream again until I die. For me, that's just not sustainable. I can't do that. That's like just too much withholding. And so, yeah, that's part of what's built into my program, is allowing myself to do that. And it tastes sweeter when you only have one per week. It gives you something to look forward to. I can get through those, kind of hard days of fasting, knowing that, yeah, I'm rewarding myself on Friday. That is going to taste so good. And it always does taste amazing when I've been that many days without sugar. And that was kind of my secret. And I started writing down everything I was doing, because my wife, after those first 3 days, she says, you know what, Cam, you're going to affect a lot of lives. I get the sense that this is going to be bigger than you. And my wife's usually right. And so I just started documenting everything. I even wrote down a wine list, like with an H, all the health problems I was whining about, to see, and I gave him a score out of 10 with severity. And then, by the end of my first, 3 months, and I lost all that weight, my wine list was way down. Like, I still had just as many items, but they went from 8 out of 10 to like 2 out of 10 for pain level, and yeah, I'll spare you the details. That would be a whole other podcast, but yeah, I mean, those things matter to me just as much as looking better, like quality of life. My mobility is better. Just because that weight's gone. It's just amazing. So
Absolutely.
Anyway, I'm probably getting ahead of myself, but you get me talking, I won't shut up.
So no, I still practice intermittent fasting till this day. I haven't stopped. I've been doing it now for 6-7 years. And it was the first thing that got me giant results when it came to being able to eat what I want to eat while still burning fat. Like, yeah, like you mentioned, I love ice cream, like very much.
Mm-hmm.
And right now I'm on the 75 hard challenge where I'm not eating ice cream, but normally we'll have ice cream once a week. We have it with our pizza or calzones that we get normally when I'm off the challenge. So for those listening though, we know what intermittent fasting is, right? A lot of people don't. To this day, I mentioned, have you heard of intermittent fasting? And when they say no and they want to do something about their health, I'm like, okay, this is the key. This is what I challenge you to do. And it's going to be difficult at first, but it's going to help you leaps and bounds to get to the health goals that you've set for yourself, right? So in a nutshell, how do you explain intermittent fasting to people that you're working with and that you coach?
Well, what you're doing is you're just withholding food for a set period of time. And I try to coach people, have a routine for about a week. And just because daily results don't really tell you accurately what's happening to your body, you kind of need to look at weekly results. Like, how do you progress in a week? And so you just go a week where you're deciding, I'm only going to eat in a 4-hour window on each day. And whatever that looks like for you, it doesn't matter. I've heard other people talk about what time of day it should be. And I don't really care about that as much with me or with my students. I just say whenever you fit that 4-hour window in, if that's what you're using, as long as you stick to that 4-hour window, you should have results, even if it's later into the day. Like everybody's saying, never eat after 6, never eat. But if you've gone a whole day where you didn't eat till 6 and you ate between 6 and 10, it's going to work. It's going to do something. And I'm also on I'm on a few Facebook communities where people talk about it and they say, oh, I'm doing an 18-6 and I haven't lost a pound. And I always think to myself, well, if you just extend that, it's always those last couple of hours of your fast where you finally dip into ketosis and burn fat off. Wow. And so if you're not having any results, you just have to push a little bit, a little bit more time, because that's when when your gains happen. And that sounds counterintuitive. We're talking about losing weight, but I just mean like your progress usually happens at the end of your fast, because you really got to burn off, your glycogen first. Because this is another thing. I have a whole video about this, but if our body is running on 2 tanks, you got one tank that's your glycogen, which is your sugars and whatever, and the other tank is your ketones. You never get to burn the ketones until the glycogen one's pretty much empty. The body just won't do it, because glycogen is the preferred fuel. It would rather have that. And so if you want to burn this over here, you got to have the glycogen pretty much gone. And that's what fasting will do for you is to burn off that glycogen, and then the body goes, hey, what else you got?
What other benefits have you found from intermittent fasting other than the fat loss?
Well, the obvious one is our brains, and we're the only mammal on Earth, apparently. This is what some of the doctors say, that your brains can run on ketones.
Mm-hmm.
The rest of the animal kingdom can't. They need glycogen for their brains to work. And you get really good mental focus when you're in your fasting state, which is a complete shock or a surprise to most people to hear it, but it's even a bigger shock when you live it. When you have, these days where I can't believe how sharp I am. And you realize what sugar used to do to your brain was not healthy. And that, like the enlightenment that you get just from fasting, and I'm not talking necessarily about a religious thing either. It's just your brain just likes ketones. It really does. And if you've never experienced it for yourself, you don't know what I'm talking about. But just trust me and all the other people who've done it, that it's a real thing. It's almost a euphoric thing that I would wish upon everyone. I'm coaching my brother right now. He's well over 300, and he's finally deciding to follow me on my journey. I think his life has been improved greatly. He's in a contest now, and he's lost 15 pounds in 2 weeks, and this is huge for him. And I think he's experiencing that euphoria. His family used to tease him because he'd forget things or whatever. And I'm hoping that his mental focus sharpens because he's doing this. So,
I guarantee it. I guarantee it already is. And the reason I asked you that second question is because I wanted you to touch on the energy portion of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So just to recap on what we just said, everyone, because this is very important. It's choosing an eating window during the day that you decide, I'm only going to consume calories in this specific window of time. Now, will there be days where maybe once every 3 weeks where you go to a party and everyone else is eating and you don't want to be that guy and you decide to dip out of that eating window? Sure. It happens all the time. Like I'm there once every week or 2 weeks at least. So you don't need to stick to it religiously. It's about what you do consistently. As an example, I do an 8-hour eating window. Right. So I want to talk to you about the 4-hour eating window because I had a past partner of mine, my colleague, Sean. He did the warrior fast, which is the 4-hour eating window. Mm-hmm. And I've done that. And I did it for about a month. But I just love food and I love the act of eating. So it's like, okay, I think 8 hours is better for me. So I'll eat between noon and 8 p.m. Right before noon, I don't consume any calories. After 8 p.m., I don't consume any calories. Now, I know a lot of people, Cameron, have said to you, because they say it to me, but Brandon, breakfast is the most important meal of the day. How could I wait until my afternoon to eat? And number one, you don't have to wait. You could start eating at 9 and 9, 10, 11, 12. You could start eating at 9 and end at 1 p.m. But a lot of people are like, but then I won't get to eat dinner with my family, so I'd have to do a later eating window. What do you say to the people who say, but isn't breakfast necessary? Isn't it the most important meal of the day?
Well, the word itself is just break fast. And I don't think it necessarily had to happen in the morning. I think the big push for breakfast needs to happen in the morning is probably the food industry trying to make more money selling pancakes and orange juice. Like,
wow,
that's really where the word comes from. Is just when you're deciding to break your fast. And if people think they have to eat in the morning, fine. But for me, to get the progress that I want and to get the body that I want, I want to be consuming the fat energy during the day while I'm working on whatever, because distraction is the best way for me to get through a fast as well. Like, people always tell me, oh, I'm too busy to go on a program. I was like, no, too busy is the best time to get on a program, because if you just push yourself, get to work, do your routine, and then reward yourself with a meal in the evening, bingo, like, you've done great. And some people can do the ratio that you've mentioned, like they wait till noon to eat and they stop after 8. If people can do that and lose weight, that's awesome. It's just there's some of us that can't, and I was one of those. Like, I tried the 16 hours of fasting, 8 hours of eating thing, and I didn't lose a pound. I just kind of hovered. I stayed. I didn't go up, but I couldn't lose any weight, so I had to be more aggressive and push and wait till later to eat. But yeah, the word breakfast, it's kind of misleading, and I don't think it necessarily has to be in the morning. And for me, I honestly don't have the willpower. Like, if I decided to have my eating window from 9 a.m. till 1 p.m., I would be so tempted to eat later in the day after I've expended more energy at work. Like my food cravings are worst at night. So that's why I wait till night to eat, because then I'm working with my natural tendencies, not against them.
What is your current eating window right now?
I'll usually push till about 3 in the afternoon before I'll have anything. Well, there's the maintenance phase as well, and that's a whole other story. But see, after you get to your goal weight, you can be a little bit more generous because your body's where it needs to be. But for me, I'm trying to lose another 40 pounds. I want to get where you are. I want to get below 200 for the first time in 30 years.
Wow.
And so I'm dabbling between a 2-hour window and sometimes a 6-hour window. Just it kind of depends on the day. Sorry. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm doing again, because I want to lose again. But
a 2-hour window, you said. Did I hear that right?
Yeah, 2-hour eating window. And they call that OMAD fasting, 1 meal a day. That's what OMAD stands for. It's an acronym. And I'll do OMAD sometimes when, if I hit a plateau. And that, I think the word plateau is probably the most common word you hear people complain about on their weight loss journey, is they have a period where they lose and then they plateau for a while. They just can't go down. I was like, well, just adjust your ratio more aggressively for a while and just see how that does for you.
Yes. Now you're going your entire day without eating food, right? Which it sounds like a big, scary thing to a lot of people listening. It did for me. All right. So I started with 5 hours after I woke up, I would eat. So I started with like a 9 or 10 hour eating window. And then slowly I went from eating at 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and then to noon. And when I first started intermittent fasting, it really was more of a 6-hour eating window, because I would wait until about 2 p.m. and I'd eat until 8. So I am really in that maintenance phase right now, which makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Now, it's really, for those listening, it's really not as scary as it sounds, okay? Because the most difficult part for me was the first week. In the first 2 weeks, because your body is now asking, well, where's the food that I normally receive, right? Your body is so used to digesting food, which is one of the number one ways that your body consumes the energy that you have, which is why I asked you about energy, because Cameron, let me tell you, I get the most focused work and the most effective work done during my fast. Because for everyone listening, how do you feel after you eat a meal? Right? Unless it's like the most green, perfect salad of your life, you're going to start burping. You're going to feel gassy, especially if it's a bigger meal. You go to have a bigger lunch or a brunch or whatever it is. You're just going to feel blah after you eat that meal. And then where does your performance go after that? Right? It starts to slowly tank. And this is why you say this is amazing for busy people. It's actually easier, because if you're not busy, then you're constantly thinking about food. Right? If you're not doing anything, you're thinking, well, when's my next meal going to be? Can I really wait until 5 p.m.? Can I really wait until noon even? But when you're busy, you're getting all your work done in this focused window of time where your body is using that energy towards the work you're doing rather than using that energy to digest your food. So my question to you, because a lot of people are like, well, what happens when I get hungry during these 22 hours that I'm fasting, right? And that's excessive for those listening, like, and it's not excessive, it's very effective, but I'm sure, did you start with 2 hours or did you start with something different?
Well, I have to be totally honest. I started with a 72-hour reset.
Wow.
Now, having said that, I allowed myself a little bit of ketogenic snacking, just so I'd have something going. But it was lots of water, just a little bit of cheese, a little bit of bacon bits, just small amounts, just to kind of keep me going, just to do a real reset. There's some people that fast for like 40 days. I don't recommend that without doctor supervision, but I think anything up to about 72 hours is doable. And some of your listeners are probably going, "Oh, you're nuts," or "He's lying," or "That didn't happen." And it's like, no, that's exactly what I did. But I did a prep phase, which is part of my program. Is if you just eat strictly ketogenic foods for about 72 hours before you start with your first fast, you're setting yourself up for success. And I'm giving away some of my method here, but my phase 1 is free, and this is in phase 1 anyway. But to prepare your body to fast, is probably the most important thing you can do. And some of your listeners that are like I used to be, where I used to be very hypoglycemic. I was irritable and angry if I went for longer than 4 or 5 hours without eating any food. And the thought of going without food was just like so foreign, like there's no way I could do that. So I decided, okay, what if I only eat ketogenic foods? And I mean like strict, like the keto diet that's out there allows you 30 grams of carbohydrates. I was allowing myself 0 grams of carbohydrates for 3 days before starting fasting. The reason why that worked for me was I was getting that satiated, full feeling, but because I wasn't consuming any grams of carbohydrates, what ended up happening was while I was still feeling satisfied eating these ketogenic foods, I was emptying my liver out of the glycogen, so that when I went to fast, my body was already functioning, burning the ketones in the food I was eating. And so what that's doing is it's just kind of establishing some neural pathways, for lack of a better term, that the body was already kind of burning ketones anyway, so that when I burned through the ketones I was eating, the body was already knowing what to do and how to burn ketones, and it was just turning to my fat a lot more readily. If I eat sugar right up till midnight the day before a fast, I'm going to have major withdrawals, hunger pain, headaches, all that kind of stuff that happens because the shift is going to be really hard on my system. But if I've only eaten ketogenic foods for 3 days and then I start fasting, the body's already kind of burning ketones already out of necessity, just out of your dietary stuff, if that makes sense.
No, that's super fascinating.
Sorry, say again?
No, I said that's super fascinating. Go ahead.
Yeah. And so I kind of developed that myself. The method that I've created was, I was looking for something like it. And sometimes when you can't find what you need, you have to make your own. And so that's kind of where I came from, is like, let's feed the body, feel satiated, but strategically do it in a way that's already going to make me adapt to burning ketones for fuel. And that's kind of my trade secret. There it is right there. If you want to know why, and it makes it way more doable because you're shifting over into that euphoric, using ketones for my brain fuel. It's happening gradually and nicely and gently instead of some major shock. Okay, now I'm going to start fasting, and I just had ice cream and all sorts of sugar the night before. You're setting yourself up for major failure and pain if you do it the wrong way.
But now that you've done that, you don't stick to a ketogenic diet, correct?
No, that's just a temporary prep phase that I use, because I wouldn't eat like that all the time. No, it's lots of cheeses and meats and whatever. But yeah, like I can't prescribe that for people to do it all the time. No, and I do allow carbohydrates in my eating windows now. Sorry, say again.
Okay, cool. Yeah, there's a lot of people who are on the ketogenic diet who've gotten great results, but I've never heard of that method of 72 hours of just eating ketogenic foods to prepare your body for the intermittent fasting. So that is very good to know, because the first week, even the first 2 weeks, can be very difficult for people to go from eating from 8 a.m. all the way to 9 p.m. or whenever they decide to stop eating food. Now, this one meal that you're eating throughout the day right now, what are you generally eating during that meal in terms of, are you eating less calories? Are you still getting in the right amount of calories? I feel like a lot of people listening might think that this is reducing the calories that you're eating, but tell me about that one meal that you do put into your body during the day.
Well, I don't count calories because I think most of us are too busy to be bothered with that. Yeah. And if you've gone that long without eating, your stomach is actually smaller anyway, so it probably is fewer calories. I try to avoid bread, but I mean, I'll still have it once in a while. If I can have a substitute for potatoes, I will. Like, I'll do boiled cauliflower instead, or steamed cauliflower instead of potatoes. Like, on a night when the family's doing a baked potato spread, they'll have baked potatoes. I'll have steamed cauliflower, and it's just way less carbohydrates in that. As far as calories go, I mean, there's calories in healthy fat, and that's fine, because that's what your body's burning anyway when it's burning its own fat. And I don't honestly think that much about what's on my plate, though. If I'm definitely doing one meal a day, I'm not as worried about what's on the plate. I'm worried about what did I do those 22 hours before I ate. That's more important to me. And because I'll still dip into ketosis the next day.
And the people who come to you, you guide them through this prepping phase to prepare them for the fast. Once you prep them for it, are there any other pointers you give them as they begin? Like what do you do during that time of the day where you do get hungry, but you don't want to break your fast yet? Are there specific strategies that you implement?
Lots of water. The other thing is I try to be really deliberate. Like I'll place things in my path, like right before I go to work. If I know there's something in the fridge that I get to have when I get home, I'll just think to myself, okay, I'm having that. Yeah, I know what I'm going to eat when I get home. If you try to do a fast and you're like, I really have no idea what I'm going to eat when I get home, it's really a lot harder because mentally you're just thinking, I don't have any food now, and there really isn't a plan when I get home. What am I going to do? And there's donuts at work, you're going to eat the donut, right? But if I have a really clear plan that I know exactly what I'm going to have when I get home, and it's yummy, it's delicious, I love it, I can get through just about anything when I know there's a plan. And that really works for me, and I think it would work for most people. Is if you've got something to look forward to,
Wow,
you can do it. And so just plan it. And like I said, I'm not terribly meticulous about what's in those meals, but just knowing that there is a meal. And sometimes I'm looking forward to like maybe there's an office party and we're having a meal, and I'm like, well, okay, it's a little bit earlier than I wanted to, but fine, and that'll get me through the day, because at the end of the work day at school, we're having a staff meeting and there's food. It's like, okay, I'll still skip lunch and just wait until 3 or 4 when that meeting happens, and know that I've got something to look forward to. And the thing is, I don't look at hunger as a pain as well. I don't allow it to be called a pain, because when I really think about what hunger feels like, it's not pain. It's just a little gurgling sound or whatever. And this hormonal response just kind of hits. And I look at it as a signal that, oh, great, my body's going to start burning fat now because I just had that little tingle. And I just drink some water and keep going. And it's not hunger pain. I call it hunger signals. And the signals just mean that, hey, the glycogen's about gone. We're going to start burning fat now. Just thought you'd like to know. Your body's trying to talk to you. And our bodies were designed to be able to store and then burn. I mean, our hunter-gatherer ancestors, they did this all the time. It's not a big deal. And so let's just work with nature in the way that we were created, and not look at hunger as this signal that, oh, I've got to consume right now, or I'm going to go into starvation mode. No, that's a crock.
yeah. Yeah, it's definitely, I like how you said that, because it's the way that you label something that determines what it really means to you. So when you're feeling that hunger versus saying, oh my God, my body needs food, I have to eat soon. No, it's like what you just said. Your body has simply gotten rid of the glycogen. Now it's going to work on burning the fat. Now, finally, in these last few hours of the fast, is it getting the most results for you, right? So don't give up when you feel that hunger pain, right? Keep going. And I love what you said about a plan. I talk about a system I use called the 5 Ps. And the first part of the system is you have to have a plan. Right? Nothing happens without the plan, because the plan, like you said, gives you something to look forward to. But it's funny because I actually still don't do that when it comes to food. And when I get hungry, I'm definitely going to take your advice and start doing that, because I don't always plan when I'm going to eat that night. But now I'm going to start planning ahead. What am I going to eat tonight? And I'll start to see it, and I'll start to think about how I'll feel once I start to eat that, so that it will get me through the day to that point. So I hope that, I'm sure that'll help a lot of other people listening too. So that's absolutely helpful. What would you say, because you had a wine list, right? Wine with an H, that you had. It slowly got smaller and smaller, which I thought that was cool that you said. What were some of the greatest obstacles that you encountered as you went through this 3-month journey? And even as you continue to maintain and continue to make progress now, what were some of the greatest obstacles you came across?
So let me make sure I understand. You mean like what was on the wine list, or what was my greatest obstacle being able to stick on my plan?
Would you say that they were one and the same, or are they different?
Well, they're different, because there's obstacles that can help push you off plan, and then there's the benefits of all the pains and suffering I had been enduring that went away. 2 separate issues. I guess I'll answer both questions.
Okay.
The first thing was, a major obstacle is a lot of people don't understand what fasting is or why it's beneficial. And so I got good at saying, this has been great for my body. I'm losing weight. And so when they tempt me to eat, I say, hey, you know what? That looks really, really yummy. I'm going to put some on a plate and have it in 2 hours when my eating window starts, or whatever it was that I said. And just let them know that I'm not withholding myself forever and starving myself and, privately dying. But no, this is a plan. It's working. And I withhold. It's just the timing of what I eat, not that I get to eat. And it's been easier to have social situations. Those are probably one of your biggest obstacles. Is everybody's trying to guilt you into eating because someone took the time to make this food for you. Like it's terrible to not accept that as a gift and just consume it and smile and tell them how yummy it was. But if I just tell them it's only about the timing, it's not about never having it. Then they feel like, okay, he did take some of the food. He's promised he's going to eat it later. And I always make sure I go back and tell him, make a point of saying, hey, that was so yummy. I waited till 6 to have it. It was great. Thank you for respecting my program. And that has kind of become what I do in some of those social situations to get past it. Because that's probably the biggest obstacle is other people don't get it. And they totally think that starvation mode is a terrible thing, and you're not going to burn fat anyway because you're in starvation mode and your body's going to hang on to everything. And that's really not true. Starvation mode doesn't actually exist. If you talk to Dr. Jason Fung and all the other people that are the real experts about why fasting works, starvation mode is a myth put out by the food industry because they want to sell more food.
Wow.
So
I think that's a great point too, because you don't have to educate 100% people on intermittent fasting when they ask you why you aren't eating at the dinner table. You can simply say, hey, I'm practicing this method that's allowed me to get these results, and that's why I do it, because I'm going to eat this, just not right now at this time. And I like how you said you'll go back after too and let them know that you actually did eat the food. That's awesome. So what were some things on that wine list then that you would put down? Some things that you encountered maybe at the beginning that others will run into as well.
Well, at my age, there's a lot of arthritis issues, like just being able to raise my hand over my head was it was painful. And skin irritations. I think my body was just really toxic because of all the gunk that I've eaten for years. And so when you start to shed that, it's just, you feel lighter, not just because there's less weight, but just because you're not restricting in your movement. And I'm looking forward to having grandkids at some point soon in my life. And the thought of actually just getting down on the floor was just very foreign to me. I hated that. I had bad knees because when there's so much weight on top of you, it just, you don't think about that. And now I'm to the point where, I would love grandkids. I'm comfortable being on the floor on my hands and knees again. That sounds like a minor thing to somebody else, but to me, that was huge. And not being able to do that before, I just felt like I have to be on my feet at all times. Can't stand in one place very long. Needed support in my shoes to go to Costco where there's a cement floor because I hated shopping because I just couldn't stand anywhere, but I could walk, comfortably. Now I can stand in one place for a long time and it doesn't kill me. I used to have so severe back pain just having to stand on cement too long, like for example. Now I'm way more pleasant to be around because I'm not in pain all the time. It's
wow.
This pain reduction that's been huge. It's not just the pounds lost. It's just there's way less pain and I sleep better. Because when I was so heavy in the midsection, I'm sure my bed kind of looked like that, and then if you can imagine if your bed, is kind of like this and you're wanting to lay as nice and flat and straight back as you can, when your midsection is too heavy and your bed sags in the middle, your spine's out of alignment. And I used to wake up in lots of pain because I just wasn't able to stay in alignment through the night because my gut was just too heavy, just pulling me down and sagging in the middle and just all sorts of little weird things that just get way better because you shed the pounds. I could talk about that for hours. Like I said, that could be a whole other podcast about what's on the wine list, but yeah, it's just so many things have improved and this is what caused it.
I think everything you just said is so valuable because you just listed all of the results that this has gotten for you that weren't health related. I mean, some of them were like being able to get on the ground so you can spend time with your future grandkids, right? So that you can experience less pain, so that you can get better sleep, all these different things. So what we're talking about, while this name of this episode is how intermittent fasting and practicing it will help you to burn fat and release weight, it's going to do a whole of a lot more. We just pull you in with that title because we know that that's what you want, but really what you want is to feel better. You want to be able to experience more of your life. You want to experience more magic and more beauty and more fulfillment with your family. Experience less pain so that you can feel better as you move through life. And intermittent fasting is the one keystone habit that will allow you to do that. If you had to pick, Cameron, one part about intermittent fasting that was your favorite part, what would you say is your favorite part about intermittent fasting?
Well, just that it is intermittent, that I do have things to look forward to that are yummy. I haven't had to cut out all my favorite things. No, I've just delayed them. And it's not just eating where delayed gratification is a good thing. Like we're in this world where we're all on our phones and we have access to everything so quickly, and we're used to just I need it now. Delayed gratification is one of the best things you can do to train yourself, like whether you're working on a big project or whatever. And it's a habit that's going to help your health, but it's also a habit that's going to help your soul. Because if you go without something for a while, it's so much sweeter when you get to have that thing, whatever it is. And I'm talking about things that aren't food. And it's just it's so good for you. And I want my kids to see this. I mean, none of my kids struggle with weight, thank heaven, but they have been raised in a generation where everything has really quick and instant access. And like I'm a singer as well, and some of the things I've done as a singer, I didn't just suddenly become a singer. I had to work for hours and hours and hours in a practice room at university with the door closed because I was embarrassed of my own voice at first. But then eventually I had the gratification of being able to sing in front of people and have them like it and be like, oh, you should start a band or you should do this, and that feels great. But it does. There's a delay. You start working on something, and then the reward doesn't come till later. And we've kind of lost that art a little bit in our society because things are too quickly available.
Well said. Yeah, absolutely well said. That instant gratification, the waiting for the reward, it just makes everything that much sweeter too. When you get through a long day, you get a lot of focused, energetic work done. And it's crazy because once you get past those feelings of your stomach starts to rumble, you start getting those hunger, quote unquote, pains, right? They go away and you stop being as hungry. And I think it's an understatement what you mentioned, the water, right? I think it's very important to say 40 times, you have to be sure you're drinking a lot of water when you're on this program. Because while you're practicing intermittent fasting, like you've mentioned several times, your body is releasing all these toxins from your body. It's releasing it through when you go to the bathroom. It's releasing it through your sweat. It's releasing it through your breath. And if you don't have the water to filter these toxins through your body, then these toxins are going to continue to build up. So while you're practicing this, be sure you're drinking a lot of water, right? That whole gallon a day idea. It's very possible when water is the number one thing that you're consuming throughout the day. And you'll find that when you're in front of the big meal at the end of the day, sure, you're going to be very excited, but you're not going to be like, oh my God, I needed this. You're going to be like, okay, I'm ready to enjoy this experience of eating. And what I found, one of my favorite things is it's caused me to be more present with the food that I am eating. So I think about the food, I look at it, and I feel gratitude for the food that I'm about to eat. When before it was just something that I did 3 times a day. Now I'm actually thinking about it like I get to enjoy this experience of eating now, and I'm going to truly enjoy this because I know this will be the one meal that I get today. So I'm going to make the most of it. Have you found a greater sense of gratitude with the food that you do get to eat?
Oh, definitely. Definitely. And I was thinking, like, as you were asking that and talking about your perspective on it, I might be able to get similar slimming results if I just ate salads only, and that might be true, but would I be happy? Would I be satisfied with it? No, I really wouldn't, because I'd know what I was missing. And so I think that's why I prefer this method. Is I'm still eating pretty healthy, but I'm allowing myself to have some of the really yummy stuff that I enjoy, and I'd rather do it this way, to be honest. Have something to look forward to and just worry more about the timing. It's way more sustainable because there's something to look forward to.
Absolutely. One of the final things I wanted to talk to you about before we talk about your video-based course, where phase 1's actually free, which will help get you started on this journey, guys. This video-based course is literally everything that you need in order to start with intermittent fasting, and we'll talk about that. But you, at some point, decided again, I'm going to help other people to do the same thing. And you did this with the challenge that you implemented at the very beginning, right? Your accountability group. But
Yeah.
when did this evolve into, I'm going to create a video-based course to help people to make these changes in their own life?
Well, because I was trying to be competitive in that group. I didn't win, by the way. One of my students won.
Cool.
But yeah, because I lost 40, he lost 49 pounds.
Wow.
Oh, go figure. Anyway, as I was trying to compete with him and some of the other people on my group, I went looking for video content, and I couldn't find exactly what I needed. And so I thought, well, maybe there's a niche here where somebody needs to create this stuff. And that was kind of what the catalyst was to create the course in the first place. Was I didn't really see anybody else doing this exact thing. There wasn't anybody teaching about prep phase, the 72 hours before. Nobody taught that. And so I thought, okay, that makes me unique. And I've liked other videos, but sometimes you click on a YouTube video and it just kind of takes you a while, and then you get partway through a playlist and it skips to something else that you're interested in. I thought, well, that's kind of good, but it doesn't really keep you focused. And so I thought, I want people to feel kind of like it's kind of formalized and they're at school. And so I went browsing for all these different sites that produce content like that and allow you to do, give quizzes and stuff. And the one I settled on was thinkific.com, which I think is another Canadian company, and I'm from Canada, I was like, yeah, let's be true to the Canadian brand. So I set my site up on thinkific.com, and so it allows me to share video content. I can share PDFs that people print off, because there are certain things that you do. I think it's worthwhile to track, and none of it's calorie counting, by the way. And it just kind of evolved into that. And I was like, yeah, I want this to be formalized and structured so people have something they can look at and track their progress through the program. And I try to make it really sequential. Like, I give them things that they need in the order that they're going to need it, based on how I went through this process myself. And yeah, that's kind of how that idea came to be, and why I decided to formalize it. I mean, I'm a school teacher by trade, so I understand how to, put curriculum together and sequence it.
That's amazing. And I know you probably never expected years ago when you became a school teacher, I'm going to create a virtual course that people from all over the world can go through in order to release weight, feel better, improve every aspect of their life through intermittent fasting, through fitness. And you mentioned that the first phase of this, you're giving away to those listening right now for free. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah,
okay, very cool.
That gives them their first, between 5 to 10 days worth of stuff to do. They'll probably experience some significant weight loss if they do it correctly. It's just not sustainable, and that's why phase 2 is where they decide if they want to keep going and pay for that. And there's different ways to do that, and it all shows on the website. I won't go into those details, but I'm kind of giving away the secret sauce at the beginning, though, just to kind of get the body going, so that they know that it's legit. Because I'm like most consumers. I don't know about you, but I kind of want to know something works before I put money on it. And so I thought, let's give people something where they can experience some success, and they realize, yeah, this is for me, this is working, and then they make an educated decision when they decide to buy something. That makes sense to me. And I do that instead of a money back guarantee, because I'd rather have people have experience that it was successful, then they go buy it, than here, pay all this to me up front, try it didn't work, and then I have to turn around and give the money back. It's like, it doesn't feel good. So I thought, let's give them some of the real good pearls of wisdom early for free. Try it, it works for you, come back to me, I'll give you the next part.
That's amazing. And I just want to say, by the way, everyone, the link to check out Cameron's virtual base course for intermittent fasting, which talks all about the strategic indulgence method. You can find it right in the description of this video. Click the link, go check out the website, and get enrolled. Phase 1, no cost to you, right? Get started with this. I'll tell you why this is so powerful. When I started intermittent fasting, I didn't have a video-based course. I would have bought it in a heartbeat, right? I had to piece together content from a bunch of different people and kind of merge it together and see what worked for me over the course of months and even years. I had to work to perfect this intermittent fasting process. Cameron's literally giving you the secret sauce that worked for him, and a portion of it is at no charge to you, because he wants to see you make the same progress that he's made in his own life. So I thank you for that, Cameron. Where can we personally follow you on social media? Where do you hang out most?
Well, because of my age group, we're the Facebook guys. So Cameron Paul Clark is my full name. And on the screen obviously is you got the correct spelling for Cameron there, and then it's Clark without an E. We have a Dr. Clark in our community, and he spells it with an E, and he's not related to me, obviously. And people always put the E on Clark. I was like, I don't have it. It's so funny. People that I think really, really know me, they still spell Clark the wrong way. I just have to chuckle. But I just want to say one thing about the website. Just realize when you're looking at it, you're consuming the beta version. And I'm taking a lot of feedback from people and trying to improve it. Because sometimes when you're teaching, you have all these ideas in your own head and you're thinking you're getting it out there, but there might be certain little odd pieces that are just kind of missing. And so I really like feedback from people because I want to improve this website, have it be even better. And so, take that into consideration when you're looking at it. If you have questions, I think I've got my email in there so people can contact me and say, hey, why don't you do this on the site? It would really help. I made some of the PDFs download in one spot, and some people wanted that. It's like, oh, okay, change it. So I put one location where they could download all the stuff in one place. So it's those types of things that I really look forward to people telling me to make this even better. It's kind of like a living document. So exactly. I want to make it better.
I love that. Yep. And it's only going to get better with time. And I'm going to link them to your Facebook. I'll link them to the website as well. And guys, go check it out. Cameron, thank you so much. It's been an awesome conversation. Congratulations on the big moves you've been making. And I commend you for the progress you're helping other people make as well. Thank you so much
for having me. This was great. I love talking about it.
What an awesome conversation with Cameron Paul Clark. I'm going to link you to Cameron's Facebook so you can check out his page. I'm also going to link you to the website so you can take part in phase 1 of his virtual-based intermittent fasting series. Guys, if you're listening to this and you want to release more weight from your body, if you want to feel better, if you want to feel better about yourself when you look in the mirror and every single day and be happy with yourself, then this is for you, right? There's no other technique that I talk about when it comes to fitness more than intermittent fasting. Maybe intentional movement I talk about a lot as well, but intermittent fasting is the glue that holds it all together. It allows me to fully live my life, eat the foods that I want while still burning fat and feeling amazing at the same time. So check out Paul's website to take part in that. Go follow him on Facebook so you can see all the other cool stuff he's doing there. And for those who want to help this show, you always ask how to help the Be Better broadcast. There's no ads. There's no price of admission. The only thing we ask is share this show with one person who could benefit from the content we talked about today with self-image and intermittent fasting and the challenges that you'll most likely face and how to overcome those challenges once they arise. Share this show with just one other person who could benefit from this advice. Thanks so much for watching. And until we talk again, continue to be better.